What up, Flow Squad? In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and reinstall the mid console, the shifter knob, and also do your clutch pedal adjustment on your Toyota Tacoma. Let's get this thing started. This video was brought to you by K-Flow's Crib, your #1 resource for Tacoma DIY projects. Make sure you smash that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that bell too so you're up to date with my latest video releases. All the tools and materials used in this video will be on my Amazon affiliate storefront. You can find that at amazon.kflow-crib.com. So this video closes out the clutch replacement series, and after watching this video, you should have all the knowledge that you need to do a complete clutch replacement and everything in between. So the full playlist will be linked in the description below. And make sure you stick around to the end of the video because I will be answering some really good questions from my audience. So let's get to the removal now. First, let's unscrew and remove the shifter knob. Let's go to the mid console. Open up the compartment and remove that bottom flooring. Use a 10mm socket to remove the bolts right at the bottom. Pop off the cup holder. You may need to use a pry tool to separate it from the mid console. Use an 8mm socket to remove the 4 screws, and that rear portion should come right off. Now we can also pop off the front portion of the mid console. Use a 10mm socket to remove the 2 rear bolts securing the boot. The front is secured by these 2 plastic clips, which work by popping out the center. These may break on you because they are really brittle, but you can find the variety set of these plastic tabs on my Amazon affiliates site. The boot should then slide right out. Now we pop up the smaller boot underneath and remove the retaining bracket by pushing down on it and rotating it counterclockwise. The whole thing can then pop right off. Remove the plastic bearing surface and the washer underneath as well. And for now, we can cover that hole to prevent further debris from getting in as we remove the transmission. Now that we're done with the clutch replacement or any of the transmission work that you might need to do, let's prepare everything and get everything ready to be put back together. First, let's pop out the plastic piece at the end of the shifter. Let's use brake cleaner to clean up that bottom portion of the shifter because it's going to be pretty dirty. Definitely gotta keep our stick clean if you know what I mean. Use a microfiber cloth to clean up all of the plastic pieces. We do not want to use any chemicals on these since it might damage the plastic. Now, let's take some wheel bearing grease and grease the tip of the stick. For a lot of you guys, I know you're very familiar doing that with yourself. Let's pop that cap onto the tip. Now let's add some more wheel bearing grease to the lower area, as well as the 2 plastic pieces. The way it's assembled onto the transmission is that the plastic bearing surface touches the shifter first, and the plastic washer is installed right underneath it. Let's add some more wheel bearing grease until that whole area is nicely lubed up. Let's remove the cover on the transmission. Clean up that whole area using a rag soaked with brake cleaner. Let's take our wheel bearing grease and generously lube up that hole. I think there's a joke in there somewhere. Let's install the plastic washer from earlier and then the plastic bearing surface. Line up the bottom of the stick until it slides properly into the transmission. Then we can push down on that retaining bracket and rotate it clockwise to lock it in place. Test it out to make sure it feels like it's properly shifting. With all the parts cleaned and lubed up, the shifting should feel as smooth as a baby's bottom, or like butter, or like your mom in my bed. Now let's pop in the inner boot. Let's slide in the outer boot and pop in the 2 plastic retaining clips at the front. And use a 10mm socket to install the 2 screws at the rear. Now let's slide in the front portion of the mid console. Slide in the rear portion, making sure that all the plastic tabs line up. Use an 8mm socket and install all the screws at the midsection. Pop in the cup holder. Reinstall the 2 10mm bolts at the compartment and reinstall the flooring. Now let's screw in our shifter knob. So at this point, we have a brand new clutch, a brand new rear main seal, and we've also bled the clutch master cylinder. And the last thing we have to do is adjust the preload on that clutch pedal. So let's get to that now. Let's go to the clutch master cylinder, which is sitting right behind the clutch pedal. This master cylinder is aftermarket, so your wrench sizes might vary. Let's loosen the jam nut by using 2 wrenches. If the clutch is engaging too late, which means that the clutch engages when the pedal is closer to the top, bring that push rod position down by rotating the rod counterclockwise. If it's engaging too early, which means that the clutch is engaging when the pedal is really close to the floor, bring the push rod up by rotating clockwise. When you're happy with the engagement, tighten that jam nut back up. So that pretty much finishes up the clutch replacement series, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you found it useful. Now let's get to some good questions from my audience members. Well, Mac asks, don't you have to seal the transmission in some sort of way, putting it back over the clutch? To answer your question, Will, the shop manual does not call out any type of sealants. In addition, that area inside the bell housing is an open system. There is a drain at the bottom. If you take a look at the video closely, there is a little plastic cover that covers that drain. And on top of that, the area in the clutch release cylinder is actually vented to open air. So you have 2 vents already right there. And that vent at the side of the transmission allows for any clutch dust to get kicked out. So a sealant is not necessary. Now let's get to the next question. Scott Noel asks, I have a squeak that comes from somewhere around that fork when I push down the clutch. I've been spraying in that area with WD-40 for years to make it stop. I know this could get me. At any rate, thanks for the video, very well done. Any idea what causes the squeak? So this squeak is most likely the throwout bearing. The purpose of the throwout bearing is to push up against the pressure plate so that you can disengage the clutch. Now when the throwout bearing starts going bad, it will start squealing or screeching. And regarding the WD-40 into the area, I would not recommend that. The clutch is a friction-based system, and by introducing a lubricant, you can cause premature slippage in the clutch. Dan Halen asks, first, thank you for posting this information. I was wondering if you had the throwout bearing and related issues that Toyota engineered wrong on the 6-speed manuals. If so, did you find a solution? Apparently, the throwout bearing is made of steel and the pilot shaft is aluminum. When the bearing slides on the shaft, it eats the aluminum shaft away and makes the bearing constantly chirp. I got this issue at 30,000 miles and Toyota pretty much told me to go fly a kite. I know it's a known issue for the early 6-speed manual transmissions, but I haven't heard of a good solution to fix it. Thanks again for posting this video. To answer your question, Dan, I did notice some minor wear on my output shaft when I was assembling that transmission back onto the motor. I really didn't think too much of it at the time and I just added wheel bearing grease in order to mitigate it. But afterwards, upon further research, I did find that this was an issue with the earlier 2nd gen Tacomas. And upon further research, I did find that there was an aftermarket solution by urdusa.com. What they do is they use a stainless steel sleeve that mounts right over that output shaft. And in order to compensate for that large diameter shaft, they also made a matching throwout bearing that's just a little bit bigger than the OEM. In theory, this should work, but I haven't had enough experience with those parts yet. And in the future, if my clutch does begin to stick really badly, I will be implementing the solution and also be making a video for it. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you have any further questions, I can also do another Q&A video, so make sure you leave those questions in the comment section below. Till next time, guys, peace out.